So Houston wins their second World Series in franchise history, and Dusty Baker finally gets that elusive World Series ring in his 53rd year in the league, I think.
2,144 wins later.
Yeah, it's over 50 years in the league as a player and a manager. The one accolade that he didn't have yet was a ring as a manager. Valdez comes out. Holy cow, I didn't realize his curveball has such a sweeping action. It would start up and in and then finish down and away out of the zone, and they just couldn't touch that. And that paired with coming in with a 97-mile-an-hour fastball, they just couldn't touch it. I mean, Bryce he's seen mostly fastballs in the postseason this year, and especially in the World Series, they were throwing him 80% fastballs, and he was getting more breaking balls, but that coupled with that fastball, and he struck out on that in his second at-bat, I think. And then Pena getting MVP, he carried. I don't want to say he carried Houston because everyone played well, but I mean, as far as their roster, he was in the field and at the plate. I mean, the first inning last night, he made a sliding catch or a sliding stop and spin and throw to get Bryce out. And then Houston just Yordan. He had 3 homers in the postseason, and all 3 were game-winning home runs. And Wheeler was throwing well, but he got in a little bit of trouble there in the 6th, but he was only at 70 pitches. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't surprised that they took him out, but at the same time, I think they could have gone either way. They could have taken him out, but Alvarez putting in there, I mean, again, it's easy to look back now, but
dude, Yordan Alvarez kills lefties all season long. And as a manager, when you have the analytics in front of you, I don't understand how you keep putting lefties in against him. He hits way better against lefties.
And not to mention, the last time they brought Alvarado in a tight spot was Game 4, when it was bases loaded, no outs, which is, I mean, that's just the worst case scenario for any bullpen pitcher. But I mean, he completely shit the bed in that outing. Yeah. I mean, he hit Yordan first at bat or first pitch, then gives up a double to Bregman. I mean, I would have thought Sir Anthony would have been the guy they went to in that spot, because that was the biggest spot in the game to that point. And again, you got to pitch it like a Game 7 because it's do or die for the Phillies. Yeah. So Alvarado gives up that 3-1 tank, which, by the way, was just like everyone knew as soon as it was hit that it was gone. 450 over the fucking batter's eye in center. I mean, that was holy cow. Yeah. But and that just, dude, like after that, like the life was just taken out of the Phillies, like. And then, I forget what inning it was, but Bregman gets a RBI single, and Schwarber makes... It would have been a tough play at the plate, but he made an error. I'm trying to field the ball. And then, holy shit. In the 8th inning, it's 2 outs. Schwarber's up 1-2, squares, and fouls it off. I mean, everyone, that was just like a what the fuck did I just watch moment? Because you just hit a homer your previous at-bat. Yeah. And you got fucking Rhys Hoskins behind you, who has done dick the whole series. Mm-hmm. I mean, the only argument he's making, they were shifted, so I just want to get on base. Okay, but there's 2 outs, and you got as close to an automatic out as you can get with Rhys Hoskins behind you. Mm-hmm. After that, I was like, okay, they're just like, it almost felt like they just gave up. Like, bro, you're squaring. Like, what are you doing? And then in the last inning, it was a couple. I think it was like 3 pop-outs. Like, Parker popped out, Castellanos popped out. Yeah. But do you think... It won't completely... It should, but it won't completely because people are still going to hate. But do you think... This should put most of Houston's haters to bed, I would think.
You know, honestly, I think it just fuels their fire. You know, Houston Astros cheated. But what it does do is it cements the dynasty, the legacy of the Astros, right? Because they had... been to the ALCS, ALCS 5 times. Mm-hmm. You know, 6th time being this year, and they only had 1 ring to show for it. Yeah. So, and that 1 ring was tarnished. Right. So, you know, I think winning it just puts all of that kind of you needed to cheat to win to bed for now. But
people are still going to find something.
People are still going to find a way to, you know, I mean, if you talk to people, they're like, "Oh, we hate Altuve still. Oh, we hate the Astros still." I don't think it silences the haters at all. If anything, it just fires them up.
There was a video. It was probably a local Houston news station.
When she said,
she asked him, "What do you say to the haters?" He's like, "Fuck y'all."
Yeah.
Like, what do you expect? But
yeah.
So Dusty finally gets his first ring as a manager. Like people are saying that he needed a ring to like cement his legacy as a manager. I don't think he needed to, personally. I think he had already done great things his whole career. I mean, he's one of like the ultimate baseball managers, you would say. I mean, he just spent his whole life around and in the game.
Yeah, and in baseball, you never know what's gonna happen. Sometimes you can't control whether you win or lose. Sometimes there's a hop or some free play. So yeah, I think whereas in football or basketball, maybe you need that championship. I don't think you need it in baseball.
Right. Well, that's the thing with baseball too. Is like there are so many Hall of Fame players that don't have a ring because baseball
is the ultimate team game.
Right. Exactly. Because I would say it's an individual game played as a team because no one can help you out. No one can bail you out. You're at the plate by yourself. You're in the field by yourself. You got to make the plays. And never, ever will one player carry a team. You got to have a bunch of guys have really good seasons to carry on and get that ring. So Harper, he pretty much got the Phillies to the World Series. He had a big part of that. He didn't really perform that well in the World Series. Do you think that has any ramifications as far as like how people look at him? Or he already performed so well to get there when the Phillies shouldn't have been there in the first place that they're still going to elevate him?
Harper's average was fine in the World Series. I think he hit still over 300. But I think there's one thing that people are going to remember is that he went 0-4 in Game 6, right? You don't see MJ dropping 10 points in a Game 6.
Right.
So, that could potentially tarnish that. But he played so well. He had so many big moments, so many memorable moments throughout the postseason that I think that those moments are going to kind of outshine, some of the shortcomings.
Yeah. And I saw I think it was a tweet I think it was John Boy maybe, their media, that said that a bunch of the Phillies guys were in the locker room after the game just drinking a beer and like reminiscing about the season. And to me that tells me that they were just that their camaraderie is what got them that far. Because again, they were the last team in the playoff, in an expanded playoff for the first time. So any other year they wouldn't even have made it. And they weren't even a good team, seen as a good team or especially a threat throughout pretty much the entire season. But I think, again, just with how closely knit those guys seem to be, that's what got them that far.
Yeah, and let's not forget, this is a team that fired their manager halfway through the season, right? It was looking like it was just a lost season. And then somewhere along the line, they turned it around. Credit to what they were able to do. I think a big part of that, like you're saying, is the camaraderie, the leadership. They had so many guys that are leaders in that locker room. Castellanos, Harper, I expect to see them back soon.
Yeah. I got to think that pitching is they're going to go after some guys in the offseason because that was their kryptonite. They just they couldn't compete. Are you surprised that they didn't bring Ranger into the game? Ranger Suarez?
No, I think being lined up for Game 7, that would just be putting them at such a disadvantage for Game 7. Because Game 7 is already all hands on deck. Right. And if your starter is going to be able to go 3, and it's already been a bullpen game at that point, that would have been too much to overcome. But I am surprised that they put Alvarez out there. I get it, you wanted the lefty-lefty matchup. But read the stats, bro. Read the analytics. He hits 320 off lefties.
Yeah, and not to mention, I'm trying to remember. I don't think he threw. It was just straight fastballs. He threw 4 fastballs, and then the one he took deep was low right over the plate, like just his prime
That's exactly
zone.
Where you don't want to pitch Alvarez.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to point out Jeremy Pena's season. All right.
Yeah.
Rookie, Gold Glove winner. He's gonna be top 3 in Rookie of the Year voting. ALCS MVP. World Series MVP. Never happened before. First rookie position player to win World Series MVP.
Okay, I know he's the 3rd rookie to win it, but he's the first position player.
Yeah. And I also want to point out Jeremy Pena, Yordan Alvarez, the same age. So those two guys, Houston's going to look to lock them up. If I were the Houston's front office, I would try to pull an Atlanta Braves and sign them now before it gets.
I think they will because he's going to be worth when he reaches free agency. Mm-hmm. How old is he? Like 22, 23?
Well, he went to college.
Okay, so he's probably like 24 or so. Usually it's like around age 27 or so. I think it's like once they've been in the league for 4 or 5 years, then they hit
arbitration
for, is it 1 year or 2? I forget. Whatever, but it's usually late 20s. It's usually around 28 is when guys finally hit free agency. I mean, if he keeps playing the way he will, which there's no reason to not think he won't be, he will be worth a lot of money. And now what teams do is they get guys like this young, because they're playing on, they're making less than $1 million a year. So okay, we'll pay you, which is significant money for you now, but it's a deal for us in the long run. So it costs them more up front, but in the long run saves the teams a lot of money.
Yeah, I'm looking for Pena to get signed 10-year, $150.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I don't know if he'd sign. You think he would? I don't know. Well, okay, we say this. Tatis though is kind of was in the same situation that Pena is in, and they signed him to over $300 million for what was it, 13 years? I think it was 13 years, like 330 or something like that. So honestly, with how he played, now that I think about it, it might be something like that or close to 300 because if Tatis got that. And then you got Pena that has all these accolades in his first season. He's going to use Tatis's contract because that's what players always do. Oh, this guy got this, so I'm worth this.
Yeah.
So
that could happen, but look at Wander Franco this year. I think he signed 12 years, 180.
Okay,
or something like that. So I think it depends on the agent at that point, and how picky Pena wants to be. Do you want that much? And also, I mean, Tatis was like an icon, right?
Sure.
People were going to the ballpark just to watch Tatis. I don't think they go to the ballpark just to watch Pena.
They might now. I mean, this was his first year, so it might turn into that. Because Tatis, was it his third year that they signed him to that? So they might, I feel like they would want to lock him up as early as possible, but I also feel like Pena, I don't know, he's going to have a number in mind. He's going to want to compare it to Tatis. Do you think the Phillies can potentially be back to the World Series next year?
I think they're going to need a lot of pitching. One of the question marks going into the series was bullpen. They held up strong, but the last couple of games you kind of saw how eventually you get deep enough into a series, it's gonna bite you.
Right.
So I think they're gonna learn from it. They're gonna sign some bullpen arms. Maybe they go after DeGrom. DeGrom's gonna be a free agent.
Yeah.
So they're definitely looked at pitching, maybe a couple bats, but I think this year is going to be a stepping stone to the next couple years, them looking to lock one up for sure.
Dusty, was this his last year on his contract? I believe.
I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure it was. And he said that he wants to come back. He's not ready to retire. So, I mean, how much? I mean, it's hard to speculate, but do you think he's going to stay in the league that much longer? I mean, it seems like he pretty much just wants to die being in the game. Like he just wants to stay there as long as possible.
I think Ron Washington type.
Yeah, and he did make the comment, I think too, that if he wins one World Series, he's going to win two. Like he wants. It's not just I finally got this ring. Okay, now I can. I've cemented my legacy. I can retire. He wants more and more. And the thing about Dusty too, it seems like he just has a great relationship with his players, and that he makes the players want to play well for him. And I don't think there's a lot of managers that have that relationship with their players because, again, the managers in baseball are more of like a babysitter type and don't have that much of an impact on the game. But in Dusty's situation, it seems like, again, his relationship with the players, that they just want to perform that extra amount better and just do everything they can for him.
I agree. Anytime you can get that added edge, baseball, there's so many variables. So anything that is a sure thing, right? Like level-headed manager, that's just going to give you an advantage going forward.
Yeah. All right. I think that's good on the game. All right. We'll be covering the off-season stuff, but that's enough for today. So Houston wins their second franchise World Series. And then Dusty finally gets that elusive ring. Or one more thing that I'm going to add in here. Even everyone, with how many people were rooting against Houston, any true baseball fan, I feel like can't be, unless you're a Phillies fan, can't be that upset that Dusty finally got his ring, right?
I agree. I mean, it's hard to hate that guy.
All right. Catch y'all next time.